Welcome to another episode of Never Been Promoted. We're about to go live with an amazing guest. If you can, just take one moment to hit the follow button on your Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Let's roll the intro and let's go meet our guest on Never Been Promoted. Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Thomas Helfrich. We are on a mission to help you cut the tie to everything holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Welcome to Never Been Promoted. Hello, I'm your host, Thomas Helfrich. We are here to help you cut the tie to all the shit holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur, become the best version of yourself, actually, just beyond entrepreneurship. Part of what we do is bringing guests on today. We're going to be joined by Casey O'Toole, the founder of LinkyBot.ai. And we're going to get into the weeds on LinkedIn and how he spams. No, he doesn't. I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about how automation AI can come together actually with a bit of class, if you will, and function and strategy. Casey's got a really good background in automation, so this will be a great, healthy conversation given my 20 years of consulting on intelligent automation and having a LinkedIn marketing agency. I'm ready to go to the mat with him on this one. Let's go. No, it'll be fun. Listen, thank you guys for listening. We want to create more entrepreneurs in this world. I want you to get better at entrepreneurship. This shit's hard. And I want you to, just learn from our guests what they've learned along the way and how to leverage some of their technologies or their services to help you get better. Hit that follow button. I know I say it in all the promos, but that really matters on the Apple, Spotify podcast side, or even YouTube. Subscribe, because you get the latest stuff. It helps the guests get their messages out there and helps us kind of grow our mission. All right, enough shameless plugs. Let's bring on Mr. Casey to the stage. Hello, Casey. How are you, man?
What's going on, Thomas?
It's great. You're in Costa Rica, man. That's probably too little too Mexican how I said that. You're in Costa Rica. That's probably better.
Costa Rica. Pura vida. Pura vida.
Pura vida. Pure life. That's right. I did my customary 8 days and had the visions of moving there. And I'm like, then my family shot that down. They like Atlanta and the traffic that's here, I guess. No, it would be a change. So you live in Costa Rica. You moved from California, correct?
Correct. Yep. Was living in Santa Barbara, California for the past 15 or so years, and my career was able to let me work anywhere I wanted. We took a couple trips to different countries. Had to be in Latin America, and I was like, well, Costa Rica's the one. Pretty simple. People here are super cool, super nice, laid back, and love it. Absolutely love it.
It's it's a country that is really receptive to us gringos coming in, but at the same time, as long as you're not disruptive, like if you play it cool and you are cool, they're like, oh, this is great. There's US dollars coming in. People are jiving. It's usually people who move there are kind of more aligned to that, blue zone type of living, because Costa Rica is one of the blue zones, right? It's like people live long there. The diet's simple. It's really good rice, beans. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people like you. I mean, I've traveled. I've lived in tons of different countries, traveled all across the world, and Costa Ricans like Americans. They like us, and they're super friendly. Yeah, it's kind of the best of all worlds.
So we're not going to have the Gulf of Costa Rica. I think they're going to. Sorry, I'm getting too topical. By the time this airs, the Gulf of America, maybe back to Gulf of Mexico. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
We won't even go down that path. We try to avoid politics here, but it's not guaranteed. Well, before we move on to kind of what you're doing with LinkyBot, is Spanish required, or is it something you should learn, or is it not super required to live there?
It depends on where you live. There's communities that are mostly expats, and you can get away with just English there just fine. It definitely helps, though. I mean, you pay a gringo tax if you start speaking in English with people. So you want to learn Spanish just for quite a few reasons.
I like that, the gringo tax. And you happily pay it, which is crazy. Let's get into you a little bit. So LinkyBot.ai, you're focusing on LinkedIn. I like the idea. I mean, LinkedIn's become it's obviously the business network. I love it. We've tried everything on LinkedIn, and I mean legal, illegal, immoral, moral, ethical, not ethical, legit, not legit, just in the last 5 years to see what works and what doesn't. And so we can get into that. Give me the ADHD hook 3/4 way through your story about LinkyBot, and we're going to back in how you got there. What's the hook? What do you guys do really well?
So we are the first company that has been able to integrate a 24/7 AI sales assistant directly into LinkedIn's DM system. So now our system can not only automate the connection requests and the follow-up messages, but then the AI is triggered once it detects a reply, and then it takes that reply within context of the conversation, generates a custom message to send back into LinkedIn, and it's always on. So it's and then you can qualify them, have it book appointments, have it go to landing pages, whatever you want. But we train all of our AI assistants uniquely on each of our unique clients, so it kind of stays within parameters. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, that is crazy too, and we can get into this. I'd love to see how you've addressed, if you look in your DMs, right, of LinkedIn, and let's say someone has sent you 15, okay, that's extreme, 5, and you've never replied, but you finally got hooked into something they said, and you look and you see 5 unanswered DMs. I almost always dismiss the one I got hooked on because it's like, oh, they just found a way finally to break through. How does your AI maybe, and we're going to back into kind of how you got there, but I'm curious just in the context of that, how do you guys avoid that sequencing to avoid that appearance of it's just spam?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And we are going into like the strategy and the different strategies between automation and automation with AI, because the strategy with automation typically is you need to fit your entire value prop message within that second message, which is, you create the rapport, you offer value, and you ask for business, and you have a link. Now, you get those enough times and it's just white noise, right? No one really responds to them. You don't get much kind of activity. But with AI, because it replies to people on your behalf, now the strategy can completely change. And the way that we approach it now is we simply do our research. We figure out who our target audience is. We determine what their pain points are. And then we simply ask a poignant question that is like directed at their pain points, which kind of establishes our authority, kind of shows that we've done our research. And we just get them to respond by asking a question. Have you ever used an AI sales assistant to generate appointments for you? Or how do you deal with this? And that's how you get them to engage. So from there, you then have the AI qualify, convert, and all that stuff. So yeah, the strategy is much more effective with AI.
So it's somebody like myself who has a company called Instantly Relevant, right? So Instantly Relevant, we do LinkedIn social media management. So we would maybe use your technology in the context of also optimizing profile or creating their content, because it's part of the strategy. You got to have the package. You're a part of an overall LinkedIn marketing strategy. So we would manage that piece for them, let's say. But I also have obviously cut the tie and never been promoted. So we go through and find podcast guests for that. We find people who might be interested in a mastermind. Can your system segregate? And I assume you use maybe a sales navigator hook of some kind of lead list. Okay. So you use sales navigator. So I can segregate my brand and messaging and AI flow based on that, because I have 3 brands effectively that I use my personal network for to go market to. Is that what yours can do? Can it separate the messaging sequencings based on the list?
Yeah, so you could segment your audience based on kind of like what your goal is to achieve with that audience. And then you could then create unique AI assistants that are kind of oriented towards helping you achieve that goal for that audience. So yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to have one AI assistant that's for one campaign, that's kind of directed towards getting people to sign up for your mastermind groups or your instantly relevant, whatever you want, you can kind of create separate campaigns for each of those and have unique AI assistants for all of them.
Yeah, that's great. So let's back up a little bit. So I'm establishing where you're going with this, because I think it's a cool thing. I've tried a lot of technologies. They've all kind of fallen short, or they've gotten too AI-ish, if you will. Are you guys built upon the OpenAI platform, or do you have a different LLM behind it?
Nope, it's OpenAI, kind of tried and true. It's kind of like a stack of kind of third-party software, but we offer it as like a done-for-you service. So we're launching like a white label so people can kind of do it themselves, and I'll help coach them through it. But most of our clients, they don't want to have to get behind the scenes. They're like, all I want are qualified conversations with like qualified people.
No, I get it. Listen, I mean, I have a team in the Philippines that does this for me, and I love them for it. And I keep saying I'd rather have them just work on internal marketing. So if I could find hey, I'll sell it, and you guys basically act as my team to go execute for the customer, and I'm just the manager, I'm 100% behind that, because I don't have to add labor cost ever. It's just included in, they don't know it's your stuff, and it's like, hey, we're going to do this, and we use AI to do it, and you tweak it, and they get a account manager on your side. I'm just the billing.
Yep.
I'm 100% fine with that, because that's a great model. I love that.
And now you don't even need to pay, labor costs. Now you're just paying API costs, right?
Well, right. And I'm not paying it. They are. So it's to me, it's like, you're charging 100. I'm saying, hey, we're going to manage, because you had value around it, right? So it doesn't work if we do straight white label, just to be fair. For those looking to, hey, how do I use a white label? You need to add value to the equation. Otherwise, they can just go write the LinkyBot. The idea is that we manage that, plus we optimize, plus we run your business page, and we do some other pieces, and you're building the list for them, and you're doing some other stuff to help it set up. And then you're also refactoring it with it. So you do need to put a management layer in there to some level.
True.
And otherwise, and it's also, it's the value add you should be, because what's the strategy and some other pieces to make the AI work right. So, all right. So back up. What did you go back in time? Let's go to the then. That's where we're going, people. That's the murder scene in the movie ahead of time that you're getting ready to go see. How did he talked about you? How did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to like LinkedIn lead generation school. That's for sure. So
anybody who does is just wasted their money, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's so honestly, it kind of is a really strange way how I got here, but I went to graduate school and I got a degree in data science, and I have a lot of experience in like systems integration throughout that process. And I got out of grad school, got a job at Gallup Consulting, just putting together PowerPoint presentations, wasn't good. Got fired from my job at UC Irvine, being their senior research analyst, didn't like it. Then I got into real estate.
Okay, can you back up? You got fired.
Yeah, so I didn't have to cut that.
I don't want you to continue, but whenever I hear somebody admit they got fired as opposed to laid off, I always say I got asked to leave. No one's ever actually officially fired. But what did you do to get fired?
I didn't know what I was doing. At the time, I was an incredible salesperson, and on the interview, I showed them some project I did in grad school of like how I did this like quantitative analysis on the big data set, and they're like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Well, let's hire him." But I didn't know what a pivot table was. I didn't know like the basics, and so they're like, "You don't know what a pivot table is?" I'm like, "I know the concept, but no, I don't know what it is."
I just wrote an AI to do all this.
Yeah. No, it was like 15 years ago. But yeah, so it was that was a fun experience. Then I was like living in Santa Barbara and on a nonprofit salary because of working for a nonprofit at the time. And I'm like, Sean, who's my brother, I'm like, I can't live here on this salary. Like, what should I do? And he kind of helped me. And he's like, well, join my real estate practice. Like, I could use some help. Like, and you have a good background. You're personable, all this stuff. I'm like, real estate? Gosh, I have this like degree, this fancy degree. I'm not gonna get into real, but I did. I got into real estate, and I was selling houses for like the first 3 or 4 years. But I did not like having to do all the things that realtors do to generate business, like going to networking events, cold calling, door knocking. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? And so I was using some of my background in kind of systems integration, automation, and I started generating my own leads just through cold email. Got a list of confirmed homeowners. I sent out an email sequence, got them to fill out a form. Then I, made my first like 4 or 5 sales from automated emails. And so I'm like, this is way easier. Let's kind of implement automation through every aspect of our business. So yeah, then I kind of stumbled upon LinkedIn as like an incredible channel for this. After a like home buying presentation, we used to do like home buying presentations at local companies.
Mm-hmm.
And after each one, I would then, at the time, manually connect and message with every single employee at that company via LinkedIn. And I'd copy and paste, hey, we'll give you a credit towards closing costs, but let us help you buy or sell a home. And we got, lots of deals from that approach. Then I stumbled upon the automation side of it. I'm like, okay, this is a gold mine. Now we're going to be able to do this at scale. And then we kind of built a company around it. So that's how I kind of stumbled into LinkedIn. It's like I've done like a LinkedIn lead generation company towards realtors, helping them generate leads for the past like 7 or 8 years. So that's kind of how I got into LinkedIn. And now with AI, it just like opens up so many more doors because I can train it on any business, on any person, on anything. Because
you can give it. Yeah, I love the idea of that, because then you can really load it up so it never comes out of brand. And if you don't have any answers, and you can say, listen, if I don't know some people are, if it's a good AI, some of them are okay with that. They're kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. But if it's a shitty one, they're like, oh, get this out of my inbox. And so a big part of LinkedIn too, right, is I have a huge network, or so, not huge, but 35,000 people, followers. Let's call it 30,000 connections. Though I would like to go through and be like, hey, who never engages? That's the one metric, by the way. I'm just going to sidebar on this one here a minute. I think you could probably figure it out from the data you could pull from LinkedIn, but I'd be a great tool. But LinkedIn does punish you if you do this. I get rid of like 1,000 connections a month who I think aren't interacting, or I don't think they have any relevance. And it kind of kills your engagement. So our engagement's always getting murdered because we're like removing mass connections. But it's like, I'm trying to build a relevant network. I wish LinkedIn gave me like, hey, these 10,000 people haven't interacted with your post in whatever, 6 months, or they're not even really on. I would be like, just drop them. Like get rid of them as a connection then, because I don't need that.
Yeah.
I know it's because there's tools that allow you to remove connections, but I'm doing it based on like, I don't need all these people from India. It's not really strategic. So anyway, sidebar. All right. So I love your background. I love how you've evolved this. Do you have a team that does this, supports this? How did you kind of develop it, because I'm keen on the fact that you lied about your first job and didn't know what you're doing. So now I'm like, I'm hypersensitive. Does this guy actually know what he's doing? So we got to.
It's a fair enough. Fair enough. I'll tell you what, I didn't initially know what I was doing.
No one ever does. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It's taken lots of trial and error, and but you eventually get to a point at figuring out what sort of messages resonate, what sort of messages kind of get responses, what sort of profiles get the most engagement, what sort of people. Like, the more you just kind of like, I've had over 1,500 clients, and I learned something new from almost each and every one. And so like that's kind of helped me build out like this whole program where like you hit the nail on the head when you said how important it is to have like a good looking LinkedIn profile. You want to first optimize your profile. You want to verify your profile, self-verification. You need to get Sales Navigator. You need to learn how to target your audience. You need to see what messaging works best for that audience. There's so much like what I call sharpening the axe that needs to be done before you start chopping down the tree. So yeah, I know it's taken time, but now I could confidently say that I am an expert at this, and it's fun then now
Yeah.
like troubleshooting and like figuring out what is the best strategy for this person.
Well, it's funny. So we were early, 3 years before ChatGPT became whatever new. We were on their beta. So if you do anybody listening, if you Google AI nerd, you'll see a fatter version of myself with more hair. And so because of that status and my years of consulting in AI and all the other stuff, in intelligent automation space, I had early access. And we were doing a lot of this stuff. And I remember one thing, we turned the automation engine on to commenting and DMing, just something that you're similar to doing. And at one point I read one of them, it said something like, my dad too also died in a plane crash and was in the NFL. My dad is alive and was an optometrist. I mean, it was like,
oh my gosh.
I was like, whoa, turn that off. And so we saw the power of it, but I also saw quickly, I didn't have the skill set to fine tune that, build it technical. And so we just built services around it. And my idea was, and where you guys are is like, there'll be a lot of really good technical people that'll compete in that space. And as they come forward, I want to go do the services around that. So that should be part of our core strategy of how we do engagement. It reduces my labor costs potentially. Because part of your AI strategy, right, doesn't have to be commenting and driving DMs, right? It could be very simple. It could be like, just send one DM that says, here's what I do. If you'd like to meet, here's a link. I'm not going to spam your inbox. Like, it's just straightforward. It's here. And that way, and it seems simplified, but sometimes that works really well because you can go and just like their posts and just not even comment on them. It just draw attention. Do you see like that mix of simplify the AI, and then once they do jump in, then you can have the conversation? But it's what I'm referring to is we hinted at it before, is the over spamming of automation versus true AI that sits and waits and monitors. Because one of the problems with services is the follow-up from 2 months ago or a month ago, and someone jumps back in and the person looking at it has no context. They're like, what was that about? So can you talk about that context? And like, if you've left comments, does your thing look at Sales Navigator notes, or what does it do to drive context on the conversation? Is it just DM or is it more?
So yes, so we strictly focus on DMs. And so our system that we created doesn't do any of like the liking of posts or commenting or anything like that. We strictly focus on kind of building that relationship through hyper targeted prospecting, and then training the AI on the kind of pain points that this audience is going through, and then the solutions that your services would provide. And so the engagement that we generate is always authentic, and then it just keeps the conversation going because it knows so much about this particular field, right? And so there's other kind of things you can do too. You can like find people who have recently viewed your profile, and there's some sort of customization in terms of if they've interacted with you. But we're outreach. We do the lead generation, the initial message, and then the conversation to the appointment.
So that's a good point. So it becomes an expert in it and it drives it. I like that piece of that for sure. What is like a service like this? I got to ask, what is the kind of tier range of costs? Because it determines who can use it too.
Yeah, so it ranges from $1,000 a month to $1,500 a month.
Oh, so that's really reasonable. That's like a VA doing it full time and missing stuff. So that's not bad.
Absolutely.
Is that per account, or if I was an agency, can I go in there and set up multiple LinkedIn accounts? Is that per LinkedIn account that comes in?
So that's for our done for you service.
Oh, wow.
So if we're kind of doing the whole setup and the strategizing and the campaign build outs, so yeah, it's pretty affordable for that. And we're keeping it at that price like now because we're trying to get, so many clients in to kind of keep making it better and better and better. We'll probably raise the prices in the next couple months. But our white label version is even better if you have the technical abilities to build this out with some coaching. Because then it's only like $100 per profile. So you can then stack all of the profiles you're managing, and then $100 each. So
that's not bad at all. So what's required on the white label then? So or an individual goes in and they say, hey, I'm going to just do it myself. They set up their own. Do they buy the coaching from you to help you get the initial one done, or is it more? Here's all the videos, watch them. Good luck.
Yeah, so there's different tiers to that too. But you can just get the coaching and the SOPs. And that's like training videos, operating procedures, how to set things up. And then there's the next tier up is more like coaching, where you get group coaching. And the highest tier is $2,000 a month, where you get 2 calls with me a month. And I'll be helping you, like, I'll be holding your hand, basically kind of building this out with you. But it's possible. I mean, it's basically 3 software: Zapier, the LinkedIn software, and then Go High Level, which is like the kind of like the engine behind a lot of this.
Yeah.
And
wait, how does Go High Level? So you're using it's 3 things we use. We use Go High Level for our email, if you will. Is that how does each of those components work together? I understand the Zapier for connecting things, but what does Go High Level have to do with your DM strategy?
So yeah, so it doesn't. So you don't have to build it out in Go High Level, but it's where we've built it out. It has like great APIs, in and out, webhooks, and I have a snapshot that I can just send to someone else, and then they would just customize it a little bit. But there's not very much heavy lifting on their end if they're using Go High Level. And so if you don't have it, then I can provide you with an account, and we can go that way. But is it to build the contact list or people who are interested and get them into your funnel? That's your landing page you're sending them to, effectively you're recommending, or because it sits outside of LinkedIn. So I'm trying to think, how is it where you're telling people to use it to sell your service or market, or like, tell me how you're leveraging that as part of this piece. So I leverage it more as like just as the database, right? And so
Gotcha.
We store all of our custom fields. We have custom field for conversation history. And so when we feed the OpenAI assistant with the most recent message, we also include the conversation history so that it knows how to respond within context. And all of that's kind of built within GHL. And so it kind of all works in conjunction. So like we have like
I get that. You're using that for contextual data of conversation, but also then that allows you to get them into your mailing list and other things downstream to be more effective. I got you. Okay. Absolutely. You're answering the question originally. And I think if anybody's confused, to get the contextual data for AI and you have no DM history, that's hard to give context. It's just knowledge of the problem at that point. And you're saying, as you look at Go High Level, you can also reference other conversations and similar profiles, ideally, to say, contextually, this might be a good way to take this one based on 30 other, 50 other, 100 other profiles that are similar?
Yes and no. So it's all like contact specific. And so one particular contact will have all of that contact information, their LinkedIn profile, their the conversation history, their title, their company, all that stuff, including like their most recent message. And so when we then feed all of that information into our AI assistant, which then generates a custom message and then sends it back into LinkedIn. So everything's like, we don't do much kind of meta analysis using GHL. It's more kind of qualitative within a specific unique contact profile.
Got it. All right, cool. I'm interested. I'm definitely somebody's going to look at this. And it's interesting, right? So from a business standpoint, here I'm a services marketing agency. And there's a lot of agencies that do LinkedIn. One thing I look at as an entrepreneur is, do I even want to be in that business? Because it changes so often. And I still think you always need humans wrapping the services around it. But part of me goes, listen, why don't I just pivot my company just to recommending guys like you? And like, have you list yourself on a directory of, and we verify that you can do what you can do. And we're like, hey, we're pretty comfortable with this. And it's an affiliate-based piece. You're paying to be on our site. We're also making a little bit every time we refer people to you. I think that's the better model, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because my interests are talking to you and not being a marketer for the rest of my life. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like yours is, you like your passion, you're in it, you're putting money into it, you'll exit it at some point probably, but I love these kind of conversations with other entrepreneurs of like, what do you do with your business? And for you, AI itself, you might, you're building upon a format that the next release might be like, hey, here's your free LinkedIn chatbot automation, and it wipes and it happened, right? It took out AI Writer, it took out Jarvis, like it took all these like AI writing companies went away on one release.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare? So the question to you is, how are you preparing for that? Because they could just literally, you're on OpenAI, they see your code, they can see how it interacts, and here's the LinkedIn sales AI tool for free. I mean, that could happen. So what are you doing to prepare for that, or if anything?
I mean, I'm not really that afraid. I mean, I'm just becoming the best at it, right? So I was the first to have developed it. And so I already have a significant head start. I mean, there could be some potential competition if like LinkedIn decides to implement something like this, but I highly doubt they will. They'll have like a way to probably manually respond and like, generate a response, but there's still so much manual effort required. So I'm not so afraid of some big company coming through. But I don't know. I mean, haven't really prepared for it. I'm just putting my nose to the grindstone and just keep on making it better.
I mean, I think the biggest threat is OpenAI itself, to saying, here's the LinkedIn chat bot, and it does it for you. Because I mean, that's what happened with other releases of GPT, that someone said, here it is for free. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, but OpenAI, so LinkedIn's very kind of picky with who can access their API. I don't think they would let OpenAI just create that, because I don't think LinkedIn necessarily wants this, right?
No, they want a platform that has no automation on it and no virality. And so I believe that if you make the right tool that leverages these things without being spammy, that is the right tool, because it does accelerate you. And as long as you're not being, overly aggressive, the market will determine that I don't like that person. But if the technology allows you to do it like you would have, to be able to get the right conversation, because all these things typically, I mean, they may lead to like a digital form sign up, but a lot of them lead into a 15-minute conversation and say, let me meet Thomas. Let me see what he has to say. And I agree with you. And I think that's the key to a good technology. It enables the human connection to come through where needed. And where it's a digital product, meaning like I don't need to talk to somebody to sign up, it leads them there because they got there in a nice way. And so it's like, it just can't be like so blindly automated. The AI could be like, hey, I think I've offended this person. Let me pull back and be like, hey, totally get it. I'm not trying to push. And they let it go. And that's where an AI could do good to help recover when you've gone a little too far or something else, so you don't ruin your brand or get reported.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have like a sentiment analysis as well. And so if the person is, being a little bit not happy with this kind of thing, or if they're asking about, is this AI or whatever, it knows how to react to each of those situations. But we minimize that as much as possible. I mean, we put all of our clients through a couple like GPT sequences, which develops like their unique style and tone of voice. And we also put them through like a branding GPT sequence, which kind of develops their branding voice. And so So the AIs that we create for all of our clients, they are effectively them, right? And
tell me what the setup time is for that. Just conscious of time. So I want to, because I think I hear that, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be 2 months into this before it works. Like how fast can this be set up?
So long as we have all the information that we need from our clients, we can get things set up within 2 to 3 days. So because we have templates already created. We have like an onboarding form that the client goes through. It takes them maybe 15, 20 minutes to go through it. And the more information they put into the onboarding form, the better the AI assistant can be. And so once we get all those answers, we run it through another workflow that then generates, like an example AI assistant. I'll then go through quickly, like fine tune it a little bit. But it's a pretty systematized process. And overall, it's like maybe 3 hours of my time to kind of get this set up properly. And
so if I have an existing Go High Level Zapier account, you guys I put you in as users or admins and you set that all up for you?
Well, so we do it all for our clients. So we would be using our Zapier account, our Go High Level account. So this is on the done for you side. We could just do it all for you, right? And then we could also zap everything into your CRM if you wanted to. So we could even if they use HubSpot or different CRM, we could still push all of the information that we're getting into their CRM as well.
I mean, if you guys are doing that too, it'd be interesting if you're like, well, we'll set it up for you in your Zapier and run it. That would be helpful. That way, the beer truck rule, you get smashed by a beer truck or decide to move to Costa Rica. Oh, you already did that. move to Cuba and they have no internet. So my point is like to think about that, because just as somebody talking to you, I'd be interested, but I want to make sure at the end of the day, I want you to run it. I just need to make sure that we have those assets in place to do it. And so we'll take that offline, because I'm definitely interested just as a buyer of it. And if that doesn't speak as an endorsement of someone to try who owns a LinkedIn agency that uses humans to do it, I will take that as a thing with you possibly. So after we get off this podcast, we'll set up the time to figure that out. I just know I would need it probably in our own Zapier and our own Go High level. That way it's working with 50 other things I got going on. I can't have yet another Go angle coming in. It's like, well, it could, because, there's 3 brands and they're all the same people who could do different things. So they have to be organized in the same singular Go High level account with the right tags. Otherwise your marketing downstream is not going to be effective at all.
Fair enough.
They are, part of it is using my LinkedIn personal to do it. So, how do you do you have the controls in place so I don't get flagged by LinkedIn for automation? Like, is it sending variable messages and things like that so it's not repeating? Is it holding back on links until they're asked for so there's not too many unclicked links? And I'm referring to out there for people not listening, LinkedIn has a very tight, like they measure these things. If you have too many links without clicks, you have too many messages unread, your spam meter, if you will, goes up, and then your account gets restricted pretty quickly because it gets on somebody from India's list and they look at it and they go blocked for 12 hours. LinkedIn jail, I'm referring to. So sorry, long form question, short answer. What do you guys do about that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, with over 1,500 clients, we haven't had one person permanently restricted. So we've done so much work with this already, which is why when we onboard, we make sure that they have a verified profile. We make sure that their profile looks good. We make sure that that they have Sales Navigator. All of these things kind of like gives you a little bit more leeway with the automation side. We make sure that. And so on our end, we then make sure that the messaging is good and it's not super spammy. We do so many things to make sure that the account stays safe. And then we also then stay within the threshold of total connections you can send out per week, in-mails, open in-mails, premium, group messages. We leverage every outreach channel within LinkedIn that they have to offer. And so we're sending like 2,400 outreach messages to your targeted prospect list per month. And everything's fine.
Well, all right. So can you do it as a business page too? Or does it have to be a user? Can you set this up to be a business page reaching out?
It has to be a profile. It has to be like a LinkedIn personal profile.
If you there's a thing called an avatar account. If you guys know what this is, it's basically a fake account that looks like a human that someone's built. I have to ask, are you using avatar accounts ever, or is it always the person's personal profile?
It's always the person. Yeah. So again, another reason. So that's one thing that will get your account shut down is if you have 2 profiles and like only one of them is verified, that would definitely flag LinkedIn. So
what I mean by an avatar account is there's companies out there that sell their fake images. They're not real people. They build the profiles up and you rent them. I guess, and they work for you is what it is. I'm asking because people will look at this as a strategy. What is your take on using an avatar account, like a sales agent of somebody who works for you, doesn't work for you, that's doing the outreach to protect your personal account? Because what I'm getting to is sometimes I don't want to be the guy out there selling and being perceived as spammy. So I want to use someone else's account. Talk to me about that a bit, if you will.
So I would recommend, just hiring a VA. So I have a team of VAs also. I use all of their profiles, right? I use my wife's profile. I use my brother's profile. I use, my other brother's profile. It's like I'm using people's profiles that have permission and then they've verified, go through the same process with that. I have never done the avatar account approach.
That's a form of it, just a legal one.
Yeah.
You're using real accounts.
It is a form, and there are a ton of benefits to it. So LinkedIn events is a huge lead generating kind of channel. And if you're managing like 5 or 6 accounts, that means you can send out 6,000 invites to this event per week. And so you're getting registrations from, you're getting like dozens, hundreds of people to register. which you can then bring over to your CRM, put them into different workflows. You can do a lot if you have a lot of connections on a lot of accounts.
So part of your strategy is you could warm some accounts up. Let's say I was using a couple of VAs who don't really leverage them. And at this point, our team is out of the Philippines. People are okay seeing sales agents out of Philippines now. I think people are like used to it. Like, hey, I'm just setting up appointments, like to make it. You would need to somehow also build their account. Like, hey, listen, connect. And so that is a strategy. Now, within your setup, could you do a few accounts for that $1,000 a month or whatever it is? Or is it just every time it's a setup for each, or is it set up for like a company? Do you know what I'm saying? So how do you handle the setup?
So yeah, so it's per profile. And then we have tiered pricing. So if you have more than 4 profiles set up, then you get 25% discount. 10, you get like a 35% discount. So you get discounts based on how many profiles you have under management.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like we are targeting like sales teams, like enterprise level, 50 to 200 company size that have like 5 to 6 LinkedIn or salespeople and a team of SDRs. But then the AI agents that we're creating could effectively either replace those SDRs completely, and then the business, the account executive gets that lead full cycle from outreach to eventual appointment booked. It's all like one person.
I don't know why you need an SDR anymore. I really don't. Like a US expensive resource. It's like at this point, I don't get it, because to me it's an unnecessary cost for most things. Like maybe an SDR that's maybe one person replies to lead forms to say, hey, I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to get you connected. Like that might be from a personal touch, but you don't need an army of SDRs doing stuff. Because why do I need you to set it up? The other person, I agree with you. I mean, right, so a conscious of time. All right, shameless plug. I really have enjoyed this, by the way. I've learned so much. You're probably going to get a new customer, at least to try it. A final question: month-to-month service? Do you set it up where I got to try it, and if I hate it after a few months, I'm like, ugh, or it just doesn't work, or what's your kind of guarantee, if you will?
So currently, it's a 3-month commitment, and then it goes month to month thereafter.
That's great.
So we're just covering our cost for the implementation. And then if it's not working for you, or you just don't like it, or you're getting too many appointments, you don't have much time. What
a great problem. I'm too many appointments. I'm going to cancel your service. Who says that?
Honestly,
no one.
When you're in real estate, so that was one of our primary reasons for churn was people are like, I'm just getting too many messages, I'm getting too many leads. Like, I can't keep up.
Here's your next service. We'll manage that for you for an extra $500 a month. Better qualifying.
Which is what we're doing. So yeah, so now like the AI is like, is that managed service? It is from like contact to appointment.
Love it. All right, listen, LinkyBot.ai. Who's the ideal customer? You got to go full screen. This is shameless plug time for you, so go for it. Who should get a hold of you, and how do they do it?
Basically, anyone whose ideal audience is on LinkedIn. So like B2B companies, like small to medium-sized companies whose audience lives on LinkedIn. So coaches, consultants, agencies, data security, tech, internet marketplace, SaaS agencies, really anyone who's B2B, whose audience is on LinkedIn.
LinkyBot.ai. That's LinkyBot.ai. Casey, you rock, man. Thank you for coming on today. I love meeting people. Technically we're competitors on LinkedIn, but technically not. And I think for me to enable on entrepreneurs like you to go, I have to bring on people that know LinkedIn in their own piece, because it truly helps LinkedIn people. And so for anybody listening, that's what I'm trying to do, is bring in people that really know their space and really can get shit done. So check them out. And I mean, check out LinkyBot.ai. I know I am, because I think what you're doing is the future of it, if it's done correctly and elegantly and with some kind of controls. And it sounds like you have those things in place, and it sounds like you're continually learning to make sure they're better as you go forward, because that's how you've gotten to where you are. And you're not just going to, turn and sell. You're continually learn so you can stay around and be relevant and keep your position.
Absolutely. And I'm not even a salesperson. So which is why I love talking to people like you, because, that way I have to do less sales calls. I can just stick to my silo of just doing implementation, perfection, optimization, all that stuff.
Yeah, improve the product, right? Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Casey. Get a hold of him, LinkyBot.ai. I'm going to put you in the waiting room here real quick as I say goodbye, but I'll be right back. Thank you, Casey, for coming on today.
Thanks, man.
Hey, listen, anybody who's made it this far, you rock. Get out there, cut the tide, all that shit holding you back. Check out LinkyBot.ai. I am going to, as a LinkedIn marketing agency owner, I am going to check it out as well. So I don't know why you wouldn't, because the truth is it seems like a really good way to get that part of your LinkedIn strategy in place. You do need other things. You need strategy. You need some optimization. You need some stuff on the front end. You need to understand what your brand is, the desperate problems you solve, who your audience is. That's all the work that still needs to be done. That's where like our agencies work out. But the execution, this sounds like a pretty good thing. And it sounds like they got some great pricing for your, do it yourself versus have them just do it for you. So thanks for listening. Until we meet again, get out there, go follow on Spotify, Apple. I appreciate listening. Take care. Hey, before you go, hit that follow button on your favorite podcast player, Apple, Spotify. Crush that little follow button so you get the latest episodes as they come out. Thank you so much for listening to the Never Been Promoted podcast.